Blake Lively's attack on Justin Baldoni is now being linked to a $34 billion billionaire whose name has appeared in reporting connected to the Epstein files, and Rebel Wilson has escalated the legal war. This isn't just about a film anymore. This is about power. Because while headlines focus on a supposed smear campaign, the real escalation may be who's allegedly backing the pressure behind the scenes. Len Blavatnik, owner of Access Industries and majority stakeholder in Warner Music, now referenced in filings tied to the Deb dispute. At the center, Rebel Wilson versus Amanda Ghost, with Blake Lively, Stephanie Jones, Melissa Nathan, Brian Friedman, and Jed Wallace pulled into a widening conflict involving alleged smear websites, a second amended complaint, and retaliation claims. Media outlets like Hollywood Reporter and Daily Mail frame this as a coordinated PR operation. But in court, the focus is on disputed forensic reports, contested evidence, and active motions. So the question shifts. Is this a defamation fight, a breakdown over financing and writing credit, or a power struggle where billionaire backing could change the entire equation? Because when lawsuits, funding allegations, and accusations of a coordinated smear campaign collide, this stops being Hollywood drama. It becomes leverage.
The phrase driving this entire escalation? Smear campaign. That's the allegation now circulating across headlines, tied to Rebel Wilson, connected to Blake Lively, amplified around Stephanie Jones, and aimed at Melissa Nathan, Brian Friedman, and Jed Wallace. According to coverage in Hollywood Reporter, there is an alleged network of smear websites described as anonymous slander sites, forming a coordinated digital assault during active legal disputes. That's not a minor claim. It implies reputational pressure being applied alongside litigation. But this changes the equation. These claims are being referenced alongside a second amended complaint linked to a federal court record and woven into broader defamation disputes tied to the Deb and parallel conflicts involving Blake Lively. The battlefield expands. The suggestion is that individuals connected to PR operations or crisis PR firms may have engaged in amplifying negative narratives during ongoing legal fights. And this is where pressure builds, because the defense position argues that the cited forensic reports do not conclusively attribute authorship of the alleged sites to any named party. No definitive digital fingerprints, no clear attribution, no confirmed link. That's the friction point. One narrative describes a coordinated digital operation involving smear websites and reputational attacks. The other argues there is no verified evidence tying specific individuals to those domains. That wasn't the only complication. Multiple disputes, including those involving Rebel Wilson and Blake Lively, are being framed under the same umbrella of online manipulation. Different cases, different filings, but increasingly similar headlines. This is where tension spikes. If a coordinated smear campaign is proven, the legal landscape shifts dramatically. If attribution fails, the allegation itself becomes part of the reputational war. Either way, the stakes rise. Because once smear campaign enters active lawsuits, the conflict stops being background noise. It becomes structural. And it's only just beginning. Because while headlines debate a smear campaign, something concrete happened inside the federal court record. A second amended complaint was granted leave to amend. And this changes the stakes. Rebel Wilson didn't step back. She expanded the fight. The updated filing includes multiple civil claims, including breach of contract, misrepresentation, emotional distress, and alleged financial violations directed at Amanda Ghost, Gregor Cameron, Vince Holden, and Unigram. This isn't just procedural language, it increases exposure. But here's why this matters. Each added claim broadens discovery, broadens document production, broadens potential liability, and that's where the pressure builds.
At the same time, parallel allegations continue circulating around alleged smear websites, supported by references to a digital forensic consultant, analysis of hosting providers, IP ranges, and contested attribution findings. But this is where the friction intensifies. The defense position argues the cited forensic reports do not conclusively link Melissa Nathan, Brian Friedman, or Jed Wallace to authorship of those domains. No confirmed attribution, no verified digital fingerprint, no definitive authorship. That dispute remains active. And here's what complicates everything. This legal escalation is unfolding while discussions about alleged billionaire backing are simultaneously shaping the broader narrative. So now the battlefield has split. Track 1, contract claims, retaliation allegations, expanded complaints. Track 2, disputed digital evidence and public accusations of coordinated online attacks. That dual escalation increases volatility, because even if attribution remains contested, the allegation of a coordinated smear campaign carries reputational weight. And even before a court rules on the contract claims, expanded filings increase legal risk. So this stops being about who said what online. It becomes about who can prove what under scrutiny. And when litigation widens, leverage shifts. That's the real escalation.
Up to this point, it's been filings, allegations, and disputed forensic reports. Once billions enter the equation, the rules change, because now we follow the money. At the center of the financial escalation, Len Blavatnik, billionaire owner of Access Industries, majority stakeholder in Warner Music, with a reported $34 billion net worth. And according to references raised inside the dispute, his name surfaces in connection to communications around settlement discussions tied to the DEB. That shifts leverage, because when financial backer of that scale enters a legal conflict, the power dynamic changes, especially in a case involving claims of breach of contract, failure to pay wages, and alleged budget irregularities, including the claim that 900,000 Australian was embezzled from the film's budget. Now layer in corporate structure. Access Industries controls Warner Music. Warner Music is positioned in the record label ecosystem, and part of the broader conflict references a proposed record deal, discussions of a record label, and future music distribution connected to the DEB. But here's what complicates everything. When corporate ownership intersects with active litigation, questions emerge about whether financial backing affects legal stamina, settlement posture, or reputational defense strategy. And this shifts leverage again, because in parallel media discussions, Blavatnik has been described as a powerful global investor with prior public associations that have drawn scrutiny, including references to the Epstein files, Russia, Ukraine, and Crimea in broader reporting contexts. No court finding here establishes wrongdoing in this dispute, but reputational gravity matters, and this is where pressure builds. On one side, Rebel Wilson, alleging retaliation and contractual violations. On the other, a corporate network connected to a billionaire with significant resources. That's asymmetry, and asymmetry changes strategy. This wasn't just a disagreement between creatives. Now it touches corporate ownership, music distribution channels, and alleged funding of lawsuits. But here's the 6-minute spike. If billionaire backing is even perceived to be influencing the escalation, whether through legal funding, settlement pressure, or strategic positioning, then the battlefield isn't just legal, it's financial endurance. And financial endurance dictates how long litigation can stretch. That wasn't the only complication, because once corporate structures like Warner Music and Access Industries are mentioned in connection with active disputes, the reputational risk isn't isolated to one film, it becomes institutional. So the question becomes sharper. Is this purely a contract fight tied to the DEB, or is this a broader confrontation where financial leverage, media narrative, and legal escalation intersect? Because once billions are in the background, every filing carries different weight. And when financial power meets public accusation, the stakes expand beyond Hollywood. They move into corporate territory, and that changes everything. Now we move off the balance sheet and onto the set.
Because at the core of Rebel Wilson's expanded second amended complaint are allegations tied directly to what happened during production of the Deb. And this is where it escalates. Wilson alleges that her conflict with Amanda Ghost, Gregor Cameron, and Vince Holden wasn't just creative disagreement. It involved claims of a hostile environment, escalating tension, and retaliation after she raised concerns. Among the allegations referenced in filings, improper financial conduct tied to the film's budget, including the disputed claim that 900,000 Australian dollars was embezzled. That's financial. But the complaint goes further. Wilson's filing includes false imprisonment, intentional misrepresentation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, serious civil allegations that expand the battlefield beyond contract language. And this is where pressure builds. According to the complaint, after raising concerns internally, Wilson alleges she faced escalating resistance, including being locked in a room during heated exchanges and pressured over creative and contractual control. These claims are allegations within active litigation and are subject to dispute, but their presence in the filing increases legal exposure. That wasn't the only complication. The complaint also references tension surrounding actress Charlotte McInnes, including allegations of inappropriate conduct that Wilson says contributed to the breakdown of trust on set. Those specific harassment-related claims have evolved across filings and public responses and have been challenged by the opposing side, but they remain part of the broader narrative of retaliation. And this shifts leverage again. Because if Wilson's claims are ultimately supported in court, the conflict reframes from business dispute to misconduct. If they are not, then the reputational risk shifts in the opposite direction. That's the high wire. This wasn't just about writing credit or financing structure. The complaint alleges that once Wilson raised objections, control tightened, communication shifted, and pressure intensified around rights to the film, including IP rights, creative authority, and distribution decisions. And this is where the personal and legal collide, because when creative control, financial stake, and personal allegations converge, settlements become more complicated. Legal strategy hardens, positions polarize, and the longer the dispute continues, the more both sides become entrenched. So now we have layered escalation, corporate funding questions, alleged smear websites, disputed forensic reports, and on-set allegations that move beyond dollars into conduct. That combination increases volatility because courts evaluate evidence, but the public evaluates perception. And when both are active at the same time, the conflict multiplies.
Now the battlefield shifts again, from courtrooms to coverage. Because while Rebel Wilson's second amended complaint moves through the legal system, the public narrative is being shaped in real time by outlets like Hollywood Reporter, Daily Mail, and commentary connected to 60 Minutes Australia. And this is where it escalates differently. The term smear campaign didn't gain traction in a vacuum. It gained traction through media framing, descriptions of anonymous slander sites, references to a coordinated PR operation, and language suggesting a shadow network of smear websites influencing perception during active litigation. But this changes the equation, because once a narrative hardens in headlines, it begins to influence how every new filing is interpreted. Court motion, it's framed as retaliation. Forensic dispute, it's framed as deflection. Dismissal in one case, it's minimized. And this is where pressure builds. On one side, supporters of Amanda Ghost and figures aligned with Stephanie Jones argue that the alleged online attacks represent a dangerous abuse of digital influence. On the other, individuals like Melissa Nathan, Brian Friedman, and Jed Wallace have publicly denied authoring or coordinating the alleged sites, pointing to disputed forensic reports and lack of conclusive evidence tying them to specific domains.
That wasn't the only complication. Wilson's filings also allege that crisis PR firms were engaged to spread misleading narratives about her, including claims that paid placements in industry trades were used to shape perception. Those are allegations, they are being contested, but their inclusion raises the stakes, because if true, that suggests narrative engineering. If not, then the accusation itself becomes part of the reputational battle. And this shifts leverage again. Media coverage doesn't decide cases, but it does shape reputations, and reputations influence negotiations, especially when settlement discussions are active. So the war now exists on two tracks. Track 1, federal court record, discovery, procedural rulings. Track 2, headlines, digital narratives, reputational positioning. And here's the strategic tension. If the alleged smear websites are proven attributable to specific actors, that dramatically alters the legal landscape. If they're not, then the repeated framing of a coordinated smear campaign becomes a reputational weapon in its own right. Either way, the media ecosystem amplifies the conflict. This isn't passive coverage, it's an accelerant. And once media acceleration begins, de-escalation becomes harder, because every article becomes part of the evidence ecosystem, cited, referenced, dissected, weaponized, which means the courtroom and the press room are now operating simultaneously, and neither side can afford to lose either arena.
Now we zoom out. Because this isn't just Rebel Wilson versus Amanda Ghost anymore. This is alignment. On one side, you have Rebel Wilson, actively pursuing her second amended complaint tied to the Deb, alleging retaliation, contract violations, and reputational harm. On the other, you have Amanda Ghost, supported publicly by narratives amplified around Stephanie Jones, with alleged legal backing connected, at least by reference in filings, to Len Blavatnik, the $34 billion owner of Access Industries and majority stakeholder in Warner Music. And this is where exposure risk expands. Because once a billionaire's name enters a high-conflict legal ecosystem, especially one already entangled with discussions about the Epstein files, global business ties to Russia, Ukraine, and Crimea, and prior public scrutiny, the reputational radius widens beyond a single film. No court has ruled wrongdoing in this dispute. No finding has established coordinated misconduct. But perception does not wait for verdicts. And this shifts leverage. Financial asymmetry matters. A party connected to deep corporate resources can endure prolonged litigation, extended discovery, aggressive motion practice, and reputational defense campaigns far longer than an individual creative professional. That's structural pressure. That wasn't the only escalation. Because Blake Lively, previously entangled in her own high-profile disputes involving alleged smear campaign narratives, now sits adjacent to this broader conversation, alongside Stephanie Jones, whose filings have referenced alleged digital misconduct involving figures like Melissa Nathan, Brian Friedman, and Jed Wallace. Different cases, different procedural paths, but increasingly overlapping media framing. And here's where it tightens strategically. If the allegations of coordinated smear websites are validated through credible forensic reports, the exposure risk for those implicated increases dramatically. If they are not validated, then the strategic deployment of the allegation itself becomes the reputational liability. Either outcome carries consequence, because in high-profile defamation and contract disputes, the court evaluates evidence, but the public evaluates alliances. Who stands with whom, who funds whom, who amplifies whom. And that's where alignment becomes power. So the real question now isn't just who wins in court, it's who withstands the endurance test. Because when lawsuits, billionaire backing, and allegations of coordinated narrative warfare converge, the final exposure risk isn't just legal, it's institutional. And once institutions are involved, whether Warner Music, Access Industries, or global investors, the fallout extends beyond one production. It becomes systemic. And that's the final escalation before judgment. So where does this leave us? Rebel Wilson has expanded her second amended complaint tied to the Deb, alleging retaliation, contract violations, and serious breakdowns in trust. Amanda Ghost denies wrongdoing. Stephanie Jones has advanced allegations involving smear websites and disputed digital activity. Figures like Melissa Nathan, Brian Friedman, and Jed Wallace have denied authoring or coordinating any alleged smear campaign, pointing to challenged forensic reports and lack of conclusive evidence. And in the background, references to Len Blavatnik, the $34 billion owner of Access Industries and majority stakeholder in Warner Music, continue to fuel debate about financial leverage, endurance in litigation, and strategic positioning. No final rulings have resolved these disputes. No court has definitively validated or rejected the broader allegations surrounding coordinated online attacks. Everything remains subject to the legal process. But here's what's undeniable. This conflict now spans courtrooms, corporate structures, media narratives, and public perception. It involves lawsuits, allegations of a coordinated smear campaign, questions of defamation, and the high-stakes intersection of money, reputation, and power. And until courts issue clearer findings, the tension remains. Because when financial backing, media amplification, and active litigation converge, outcomes rarely stay contained to one film. They reshape alliances, they test endurance, and they expose how influence actually operates when stakes are this high. We'll continue tracking every development as new filings, rulings, and responses emerge. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next escalation. Because this story isn't over, and the next move could change everything.